Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Last Argument of Kings, the third book in the original trilogy. For this episode, we'll be covering Open the Box and Dark Paths. So, let's get started. You okay there, George?
Yeah, I was just saying, what's in the box?
What's in the box?
I couldn't stop thinking that when I was reading it today.
Lord, my lord. All right, well, as usual, got to thank everyone for your continued support. We had some good numbers, right, recently, George? And I don't know what else to say. I think we got a couple new subscribers, cool stuff.
We're very thankful. Thank you for listening.
As always.
As always, we appreciate you, and we just like to appreciate you some more if you could follow us on our social medias. Thank you. So, we'll go ahead and just jump right into our first chapter read-through, and this one is Open the Box. And we start off from the perspective of our boy, our homie, our new king, Logan Nine Fingers.
The King of the North! Sorry, wrong one, my bad.
Wrong one. Who knew Logan was basically a mix between Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton? Anyway, so
That's good.
So Logan and the homies are running through the streets of Adua. They're a little freaked out because they're used to fighting in their homeland, their home turf. They're used to fighting in mountains, valleys, forests, what have you. But in a city, a proper city like Adua is, they're a little perturbed, to say the least. There's a lot of doubt, a lot of fear in the men, and even Logan is, there's a potential enemy in every doorway, and there's a shitload of doorways, right?
I don't know about you guys, but anytime I hear about urban warfare, it always sounds
Way worse.
more terrifying. Except the only other thing I think is more terrifying is jungle fighting, but that's it, and it's for the same reasons though, which is you can hide anywhere, you can fucking lay traps anywhere, you never know what's gonna be around the next fucking tree building. It's that I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody likes it that actually, engages in this kind of warfare, right?
Well, I think some people do.
The Viet Cong did.
I don't know if they liked it. I think they just were skilled at it.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah. So there's a lot of noises, and everyone's just on edge, and then they get to a corner. Right, and Logan peers around the corner, looks down the street, and you can see up ahead is the Agriant. And what do we have in front of the Agriant but a shitload of men who apparently are Gurkish, and they have they have it surrounded. They're all drawn up into battle lines, all that jazz. And then Logan's like, I don't know if we want to. We're not gonna. I don't think we want to do this. And Dogman comes around, and he's like, no. But then the rest of the Northmen kind of come up, and they're just standing in the middle of the street looking like idiots. And Logan's trying to wave. It's like, get the fuck back here, stop. And then, but the Gurkish officer sees him, gives a command, and these soldiers, they hop to it. They turn around, they get into their, not phalanx formation, but they got their spears out. And
they get into a line. They're out. I think one thing Joe's trying to point out is that these guys are far more disciplined than the guys outside.
Right. Yeah, these are true Gurkish. They're true believers, I'd imagine. And so, they start, charging them at a brisk pace. So Logan decides, it's like, well, there's only one way to do this. Well, it's only three choices, right? You could run away.
I was gonna say, I love this little inner monologue that Logan has. It's just like, well, there's only three choices. You can either run away, which isn't usually a bad option, but in this one, they'll probably run until they get to the sea, or you can just stand here and let them charge at us. In which case, we're probably all gonna die because we're just fucking in shambles.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can charge at them back. And what is it? I love this as well, where he's like, which left one choice, and that's no choice at all.
Yeah, and two charges in one day. Shitty luck.
Yeah.
So they start charging, they start running, and it's about to be a clash. They got the spears out, so you think they have the advantage, but then out of nowhere, Union soldiers come charging out from the left, And so then they charge into the Gurkish. They try to wheel around, and so then the Northmen are still moving forward. And then it's just a bit of a weeble wobble. There's a lot of chaos going on over here, and Logan slams into one dude, stabs another dude, the usual. And then the Gurkish officer was like a foot away or so, and then Logan was gonna try to stab him, but then homie got caught in the collarbone with an arrow, so he down. And then Logan chopped him in his back and put an end to him, you could say. And then what else? We see Carl get his hand chopped. Right? No, he lost the
Right down
thumb.
the middle.
Yep, lost
I
the
know.
thumb.
I know. It's just so chaotic. Oh God! It's the thrill of battle, the horror, the craziness.
Yeah. This is like that. This is like a brief moment of that kind of press that we saw in the Battle of the High Places, where it's just like chaos, and then a spear kind of like flashes at Logan, and it cuts him on the side. And who had the spear was like kind of still moving forward, like stumbling, couldn't stop. So Logan just stabbed him. And then Logan looks at the guy, and the guy looks at Logan. It turns out it was a Union soldier, so it was like ruh-roh. And
Row.
whoopsie. So Logan kind of just like, oh, that didn't happen. And then he turns, he's looking for, he's wondering about that spear, if it like just grazed him or actually like ran him through, because all he feels is like the cold down there. And then something hits him in the back of the head, and he's his equilibrium's all off. And well, we kind of know what happens here at this point. So somebody touches him on the shoulder, and he flinches, turns around, and snarling, and it's Dogman. And Dogman's like, "Dude, it's me." And this last sentence was Logan saw who it was, but it wasn't his hand that held the sword now, and the bloody nine saw only work that needed doing. It's like, God damn it, not Dogman. Please tell me, not Dogman.
I think this part's funny because it seems to be he's getting the bloody nine easier and easier.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it just makes it kind of funny because it's like, I gotta summon the bloody nine. He just fucking like hits himself on the back of the head. I'm angry now. I know I got stabbed too, but
And then, but we're left on that bit of a cliffhanger, and then the chapter skips to it switches to Glocta's perspective. Him and the homies, Casca, the dwarf, Artie, all the mercenaries, and a superior Goyle who is bound, gagged, and he still has his taint intact. So I know he's grateful for that.
thank God, Jeff. I forgot. I was waiting in suspense this entire week whether his taint survived.
Trousers, please. And then so they're going. Go ahead.
I love the description of Goyle. It's like an unwilling dog being taken for a walk. I just love how, like, even though this situation is so serious, Glocta still has these moments to go like, "Ha, fuck you, Goyle."
He's still got to do the comedic commentary, and so they're going through the streets. They're trying to make their way to the university. They turn around or something, and then they turn a corner, and then they come to a sudden a halt, and they see the square of marshals, and that's where they see who else but the first of the Magi and Pharaoh just chilling. And Glocta is not. He's like, Baez. But then Casca's like, no time for this, and then he just grabs him. He's like, keep moving, let's go. So they kept moving. They kept running, walking down, and then they turn another corner, and guess who they come face to face with? But our High King of the Union, Captain Giselle Dan Luther.
Actually, he was a colonel when he.
You're my man.
I was
Whatever.
gonna say, I think the king kind of supersedes those other titles, right?
Whatever.
No, he's still. My name is Captain Colonel Giselle Dan Luther King, High King of the Union.
He's still our man. He's still our man in our hearts, okay? And
You're my man, Your Majesty.
Can you imagine saying that to the king? And Glocta's like, Your Majesty, and he lowers his head, and obviously that causes a little kink in his fucking neck. And Casca has to like one up him with the most extravagant bow, but then doesn't have the hat to sweep it, And then Luther is Giselle's just like staring at him, and everybody's just confused, like what the fuck. And then Glocta's looking at Luthar's entourage. He's like, wait a minute, there's a dude wearing a robe of black and gold. Is that is that is that the High Justice? Is that Morovia? But we just saw him in frozen pieces. What the? And then Artie comes around the
What?
corner. But then Artie comes around the corner, so that kind of like DJ record scratch, and then Giselle's like Artie, and she's like Giselle. I mean, and then out of nowhere, the air was ripped apart by a colossal explosion. Doot 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 doot. And then
I
we
like
sw-
that Glockton doesn't even like point out about Moreover. He's just like, oh,
well, I think that's how Joe like it was like writing it. It was like Glockta's a little confused, but then Artie kind of like interrupts that moment of confusion, and then they get interrupted by an explosion. You know?
I have a feeling though he wouldn't have said anything.
I'm pretty sure he would have. I'm pretty sure Glock would have been like, you dead?"
Everyone's just looking at him. What the fuck are you talking about?
So then we switch perspectives again, and this time we're with Lord Marshal West, and they are I guess they're in the city. They're going down the middle way, and it's not what it used to be, folks. It's all just blackened and charred, and just corpses everywhere, this way and that. And then they get to the Four Corners, and apparently it's a slaughter yard, and we have some Union soldiers here. That looks like the Union are holding the Four Corners for now. They are piling the Gurkish dead, and we have General Croy, and this man is he's got ash on his arm, his entire uniform. He even got like one of his sleeves is ripped down to his wrist. But the man is still as immaculate as he can be. That salute is impeccable. And so Wes asks him how's the progress, and he tells him it's been better fighting. But we attacked and they counterattacked. But it's changed hands a dozen times now. But now we have the Four Corners. But they still got not so good news at the Agriant that they're pushing them hard, but the Gurkish they have more numbers, and they still have the Citadel entirely surrounded. And Lord Marshal West is like, push harder. And then Croy, gives another perfect salute. He's like, yes, sir, we'll break them. Don't you worry. By the way, might I ask how General Polder is doing with the docks? And West says, he says the docks are back in our hands, but General Polder is dead. And there was a pause, and Croy says dead, and his face had gone deathly pale. This affects him, obviously, as we know. I think since they got the news that Adjoa had been invaded, and they put aside their petty little beef, especially what we saw in the tent before the day of the battle. And there's always, like, I guess you could say, even though you dislike somebody, you still have respect for a peer if they're good at their job. And you can see Croy's not happy about this. And he was trying to ask Wes, how did he die? But he got interrupted by the same exact explosion that's been interrupting everybody fucking around. So, yeah, there's another explosion. Then we shift perspectives back to our boy, our homie, our not so homie actually right now. It's the Bloody Nine, not Logan. And
I was just gonna point out as well, real quick.
why
Jeff,
not? Go ahead.
I like the fact that all of these are connected by like a single thread, kind of like how the last chapter's flow was, the sentences were ending on one word and then they'd begin on the same phrase. And so in this one, it's the explosion. I just think it ties it really well together. And the one thing we missed a minute ago is, unless you did say it and I'm crazy, but Glocta did run into Baez. They were all close together.
Right. Well, they saw him, but they didn't talk.
Yeah, they saw Baez at the the marshals. What was it, George? The marshals.
The Square of Marshals.
Square of Marshals. Yes, the Square of Marshals. It's all good. They saw him at the Square of Marshals, which is not far from the Four Corners, which almost all the characters are super duper close to each other.
Yeah.
Which it's just interesting to see how it all, they all kind of all very closely connected without it being like annoying. the final thing I
They
wanted to
don't
say
like
is
all
the fact
constantly run into each other and stuff.
right. It's not like Glocta runs into Bias. Oh, okay, we gotta go, and then runs into Giselle. The Giselle runs into Bias. It's not like that. It feels very natural. This is like the center of the city. So, um, the only other thing I wanted to point out before we move on was the fact that um, the Gurkish are strongest near the Agriant because it looks like just like what Giselle was seeing up in the tower, the actual like Gurkish legionnaires are all around the actual Agriant, so their best troops are assaulting the Agriant itself, whereas all their bad troops are around the outside of the city, which is why they broke them so easily.
All right. And then thank you for that, Harrison. Then we switch our perspectives over, and we are in the perspective of our not so homie, the Bloody Nine. And he is coming to, I guess, everything's coming back into focus, and he sees a small man with pointed teeth, like not, a foot away, watching him. And the Bloody Nine is all, to stand so close to the Bloody Nines to ask for death. How dare you? You are demanding it. And then something about his pointy teeth seemed familiar, a faint memory from long ago.
I don't know about you guys, but I was really annoyed by this. I'm like, oh my god, are you
Are you
serious?
serious?
You
Yeah.
mean this dramatic?
Yo, this the first time I read this, I was like, come the fuck on. Are you shitting me? And that memory, that little memory that's tugging at him, well, the Bloody Nine pushed it away, shook it off, and put it in the bottomless sea, apparently. It meant nothing to him who men were or what they had done. He was the great leveler, and all men were equal before him in the dirt. And he raised the sword. The earth shook just a little bit. He didn't get the full effect of the explosion yet. He stumbles, and then the explosion, the shockwave, hits him, and then something knocked loose inside his skull. Tried to right himself, tried to lift the blade, but the arm wouldn't move, and Logan took over again. And
George, what was your thoughts on this? On like this Bloody Nine?
I mean, especially at the end there when he's like bastard and he seems like he doesn't want to go yet. But it's like one of the few times where you actually feel like the Bloody Nine really is like a separate entity.
yeah,
Like because he doesn't want to go yet, and it's like, oh well, he wants to hit or he wants to kill the Dogman, but he literally can't move the arm.
mm-hmm.
So I think that is kind of interesting. Even though Joe kind of walks this back later, like it does kind of lend credence to the whole like supernatural like part of the character.
Or he has like DID or something.
Also, I don't know if that's actually how that works, but you know.
I mean, I don't know. I watched United States of Terror. That's all I know. So yeah. So then Logan takes back over, and there's a lot of dust. There's a lot of craziness going on here, and then I mean, what else happened?
We skipped back over to a short little time with Glocta, and Glocta is, they're like, oh god, there's an explosion. So, you know, the Kingsmen are like, oh no, we gotta get to the palace. We gotta go. And Artie and Giselle are like giving each other this look, like, oh my god, this might be the last time I ever see you. That's the look that they're giving each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's interesting how he transitions from this, because we know that Morovia is not who he says he is at this point. So, Gorse is like, "That's just your majesty," and then Morovia is like, "They're coming."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very creepy thing to say.
Yeah.
And then we switch over back to Pharaoh's perspective now, and well, not back over because this is the first time we're in her perspective right now for this chapter, I believe. And they're all they're both just chilling in the Square of Marshals while they just witnessed or at least heard the explosion that just occurred, and rocks and all these stones are falling from the sky, but they're okay. Kind of it's all that stuff falling came to a halt. And so Pharaoh's, she asked Baez, well, what's going to happen now? And now Baez knows that, I guess, that explosion was what the majority of the eaters were, I guess, directing those Gurkish soldiers to bring all that black powder in. And that was their port of entry. So he tells Pharaoh, once we start, don't move from the spot, not even a little bit, all right? And then Pharaoh gives him some back talk. He tells her to open the box. She opens the box and grabs the seed, and it feels heavy and cold. And Baez is like, "All right, good job, good job." And then she holds out the seed to him, and he flinches. He's like, "Don't come closer to me with that." And then
It's like the Gandalf scene inside of Lord of the Rings. Whenever he's like, "I'm giving it to you," Frodo's like trying to give it to him.
Don't tempt me, Pharaoh.
tempt me not. And then Pharaoh closes the box, and then we see two Union guards. They're backing into the square. They have swords and everything, and they're scared because they're kind of like it seems like they're scared because they're retreating from some like an army, but it's just one guy. It's one guy in white armor. All this stuff, and Pharaoh can see that. Oh, this is an eater. Oh, I know this is an eater. And
That
this
man way too attractive not to be an eater.
he's way too pretty. And the one guard tries to charge, and this eater just kind of like backhands him to death. And then the other guy just kind of just catches fire, spontaneously combusts.
Yeah, he just looks at him.
Yep. Oh no, he doesn't catch on fire. I'm sorry. His head just exploded. That's right.
Oh yeah,
And,
much more visceral.
That's much more visceral. And then Baez, the kind person he is, he yells out, "Welcome to the Agrion," and Pharaoh starts looking around now and sees that there's a lot of eaters, kind of like coming around the square of marshals. They're jumping on the buildings, they're sauntering.
They do a lot of sauntering. These guys, don't they?
Yeah, they have like some of them are holding hands. Some of them are like strutting up like they're the hot shit. Some of them are like loitering around like they've just been waiting all day.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these people, men, women. There's no discrimination here if you're an eater. There's a giant man with like a large club. It looks like
I love how cartoonish it is.
yeah.
He's just got a club.
It was so funny considering we've seen these people literally kill people with like just the hands. And this guy's got a stick.
And he's a big guy too. Presumably, he's had that club since they've been holding back their forces with the eaters until this moment, right? So these guys haven't been like fighting or something. And he like lost his sword. He carried this club with him all the way from Gurkle.
Maybe he's just attached to it.
Yeah. He's like, I have no one but the club. Once I became an eater, I only had one friend. He satisfies me in many ways.
Oh, is he the Gomer Pyle of the eaters?
I don't know that reference.
Full Metal Jacket. 7.62 millimeter. Full Metal Jacket. He just caresses this club at night, right before he eats like a slave.
Yeah.
It's like, this was my father's club, and then I ate him.
So we have quite the array of eaters, and then Baez, I guess he's comfortable that the entire party is arrived, and he bids them all welcome. He says, "I have been waiting for you, Mamoon." And that first eater, the one that caused the headless corpse, that was Mamoon, and we didn't know that because Pharaoh had never seen him before. And then he's like, "Yep, we've been waiting for you too. Where is Yulway? That dude's always creeping around." And Baez just simply says, he just says that he could not be here with us. And then Mamoon asks him about Zacharias, and he goes, he's in the ruined west trying to heal a corpse with a bandage. Cornel, and she's too much in love with herself. And then Mamoon's like, "You are all alone then, except for this one. This is a strange one." And Baez is like, "Yeah, very difficult, but not without resources." And since Pharaoh didn't say anything, Baez goes, "Oh well, I've always found myself to be my own best counsel." And then Mamoon says, which I think he's coming with some heat here, right? He says, "What choice do you have? You destroyed your own order with your pride and your arrogance and your hunger for power. Power is all you ever cared about, and now you are left without even that. The first of the Magi and the last." And Baez says, "Oh, it looks that way. Does it not make you happy?" And Mamoon says, "No, it doesn't. I take no pleasure in this. It's just what has to be done." And
it's super interesting that Mamoon, speaks the way he does. Not just because like he's saying these things about Baez, and presumably it's all lies from Baez's point of view, but it's interesting that he's like, oh, I'm just doing what has to be done. Like this is like it's in the book's eyes for most of the books here so far, we're given the impression that we have to find this seed that way Baez can stop the Eaters because the Eaters are evil. They broke the second law. They're terrible. But really, the whole time, the same thing has been being said in the Eaters camp. The 100 words. They're like, sorry guys, we don't really want to do this, but this is the only way we can stop Bias, and he's the big bad evil guy. That's what they're all telling each other. And it's just, I love that duality perspective.
It's good because like you were saying, Harrison, like for the majority of these 3 books, we're only getting with the protagonist side that we get. We only see like the idea. We get the idea that Baez is of, he's the good guy, right? He's on good team, good guys, and all that. And then we're hearing other perspectives that we don't know if we can trust them, right? We don't know if it's reliable or anything like that. So it is interesting, and I do like that. Well, Baez, he says, "Does God smile on your results?" And no, your methods. And then Mamoon says, "No, God smiles on results, buddy." And they get more eaters, and they're coming, closer. And then Pharaoh's kind of getting a little nervous. If you have a plan, you maybe want to start it, now. And then that they do have the 100 words there. Kalul's not there, and Baez like, shame he's not here. But Mamoon, he's confident. He says, we have 100 as I promised. Some others are they got some other duties they have to attend to, but most of us are here for you, more than enough. And Pharaoh, she doesn't get scared, but she's not. She goes, "Oh, this doesn't look good for us." And then here, Mamoon, he says to Baez, answer me one thing since we're at the end. Why did you kill Juvens? And Baez, like, kind of equivocates here. He goes, Juvens. He thought to make the world a better place with smiles and good intentions. Good intentions get you nothing, and the world does not improve without a fight. I say I killed no one. And he looks at Pharaoh briefly, and he says, but what does it matter who killed who 1,000 years ago? What matters is who dies today. So he didn't deny it, but he didn't confirm it.
Yeah, it's weird that that he would not have confirmed it, because he knows Pharaoh doesn't fucking care about all that shit. Like, again, it makes me think that there's much more to the story. Like, he obviously was involved, but why would he not? He kind of said, "Oh, Juvens was stupid," but he also didn't say, "Yeah, that's right. I did what I had to do, just like you're doing what you have to do. So now let's get this over with." He's right. He says, got some kind of weird in the between thing going on.
Right, and he says, "I say I killed no one," which I mean, that I don't know. It's on one hand you could take it at face value that he's saying he didn't kill anybody, but I mean, I don't know.
It's a very roundabout way to go about it, isn't it?
It very much is. And then Mamoon answers like, "Yep, that's true. What matters is who dies today, and now you will be judged." And they start, walking forwards, and then Baez kind of goes, "Oh yeah, there will be a judgment for sure, and the magic may have drained from the world."
Mamoon's like, "Oh, there will be judgment," and Baez is like, "Yeah, there will be. Yeah, there will be." The magic leaks from the world. That old fantasy trope, but he's still got the high art, and he also learned making from Canadius, and Mamoon hasn't quite got it yet. He's just still like, yeah, whatever. What are you bragging about that kind of shit for now? And Baez is like, no, I'll definitely need more than that. I need some darker medicine, which is a very strange phrase. And he does his whole magic thing. The air starts to shimmer around his shoulders, and the eaters are ready to kind of rebuff. But it looks like they raise their arms over their faces and getting ready.
Even this confident, they're like, "What is he about to do?" And they don't even know he has this whole thing going on. Baez must have been an absolute unit. I mean, he still is, but he must have been a unit.
I mean, there's a reason why they sent so many eaters to kill him, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if Mamoon probably could by himself, that Baez might be able to take him out before he does.
Yeah. since
So it
he's
makes sense. You might be able to kill a couple of them, but they'll still tear them apart before he gets them all. So, but then at that moment, there was just a little breeze, a little wind that starts to move the sawdust, and Mamoon looks down, and he just starts to see like all of these circles and lines and circles within circles. And Baez starts monologuing. He's like 11 wards and 11 wards reversed, iron quenched in salt water, which is very interesting because obviously Glustron did this originally, didn't he? In Alcus,
didn't
but he
do
just
that.
used raw salt.
What an idiot! An amateur mistake.
Exactly. That little wind comes up and it just moves the salt a little bit, and you're fucked.
Oh, I think Bias did that on purpose. I think he fucking called on that shit. He fucking blew it away to be like, yeah, check that out. He was gloating.
Yeah. That's what the shimmering around your shoulders is, right? He's like,
Exactly,
he's
yeah.
like just doing that. Like, whoa, look at me, look what I've done. And all of the eaters just like start going for him, and Baez turns around, and there is a big. Well, Pharaoh just says they're gone. Like that's it. Like 3 of them have just disappeared, and everything behind them is gone as well, including the building in the background.
Yeah, it is like it's like a she describes it as like a canyon has just been torn through the city. Like this, it's crazy.
Yeah. And she says, from ground to dizzy roof. So you can imagine that these buildings are probably like 4 or 5 stories.
Yeah, reasonable size.
Reasonable sized building, and it's just like fucking gone. And Pharaoh starts to hear like the cries of the people that were using that Giselle told to use the building for shelter.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yep, a lot of refugees in that building.
Yeah, tons of
Well,
refugees.
not anymore.
No. And Baez is just like, it works.
Oh. And that's
that's
the end of
pretty
that chapter.
fucking horrifying.
Yep. Yep. Yes, it is. So that's the end of that chapter. George, how would you rate that?
Ooh, I'm gonna give this one a 7. It's shorter than the last couple that we've given the higher scores to, but I really, 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 really do love like this conversation between Baez and Mamoon. Like the fact that, like you said, Harrison, like you expect there to just be like villain monologuing from Mamoon, whereas it's Baez that's doing the monologuing here. So yeah, it's like a complete perspective shift, and we're starting to see, well, not starting to, but we're seeing Baez for what he really is.
Or what, could be. Maybe he's just in a bad mood. Maybe he just really hates the eaters,
He does hate the eaters.
He does.
He does. Mamoon, you damn snake! Harrison, what about you?
I think I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 6 and a knuckle because
6 and a knuckle.
I agree with everything George said. I think I like how it transitions, like I said earlier, but I also I don't really like the rest of the chapter that much, to be honest. I mostly just really like this end part. I think like Baez's like conversation with Mamoon, even though it's brief, how Baez is like obviously he's full of pride. The nuance of how they're speaking, like the subtext and the way Baez like that he points at how he looks at Pharaoh as if like to challenging him, like looking for support or challenging him, and different things like that, and the lore of the first law coming into effect in a completely like unthought of way. Like nobody, you can't really see this coming because one, it really is crazy because they only talk about how horrible Alka's situation was, and it's crazy that Baez would try it, but it's also like pretty badass. Let's be real, it's pretty awesome. That's terrible what ends up happening here, but it is also badass. It's the same feeling I get whenever Thanos gets all the stones. That's the same feeling that I get. You're like, whoa, this is so cool. This guy's crazy. I can't believe he was able to do this. Oh man, he actually. Oh wow, this is that's so cool. I'm kind of rooting for him. And then you're like, oh, right.
Not the biggest fan.
What about you, Jeff?
I'll give it a 6 and a knuckle. I thought there were parts to enjoy, like the build up to opening the box that held the seed, and the conversation between Mamoon and Baez. But I felt that I feel like this is especially like with the Battle of Adwa, we're gonna have climatic moments or like very important moments, and then we'll have like it kind of like has to
dip.
build back up, you know. And I feel like this is one of those like building back up transitional chapters, where people are moving from like we're catching them from not when they're while they're going from point A to point B, we're catching them right in the middle of that traveling. So I give it a 6 and a knuckle for that. I mean, there were good parts, obviously, some funny parts, but for 6 and a knuckle. So with that, we'll move on to our next segment, which is best meme of the week. Georgie boy, take it away.
I'm already laughing about this one because it's really funny. So we've got user on Reddit Lick Shots 419. I think he's had one or two before. One a little bit recently, but it's King Jazar when he sees the Gurkish breach the wall. Fucking, I've forgotten his name. The fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja
Michelangelo.
Turtle.
Michelangelo, I think.
Michelangelo's the blue one, right?
No,
he's the orange
this
one.
Mikey.
Mikey's the orange one.
Oh right, yeah, of course, yeah. Fucking hell. Duh. Yeah, cowabunga it is. Oh, that's one of those. You're like, how did I not think of that? That's brilliant.
I love that meme. Love it.
So yeah, thank you very much, Lickshots 419.
Thanks, Lick Shots. Thanks. So we'll go ahead and we'll go right on to our next, our second and final chapter read through. This is Dark Paths, and we start off with the perspective of Giselle, and he and his entourage. They go through these gates, and they are in the gardens of the palace now, right?
Yep.
And Giselle's noticing that it's pretty remarkable that High Justice Morovia, for him being such an old guy, not such an old guy, but like what, 50s, 60s, that he's able to keep pace. He's not even like tired. It's crazy. Anyway,
It's hilarious that Giselle always points these things out, but never catches on like everybody else does. It's
Right.
hilarious. Giselle has like actually pretty good wisdom because he actually learns and does better, but he has got super low intelligence.
yeah.
His perception score is like pretty high actually. He's pretty good at perceiving things in terms of physical things. But
Well, I also think I don't think he's too busy trying to investigate, the health status of one of his counselors in the middle of a battle, especially while him and the
a
homie-
good king would. I'm scared.
okay. Well, so then they shut the gates. These huge doors were heaved shut, and two beams, that were the size of ship masts, were put into position. And I was like, oh, okay, they're safe. And Morovia is like, hey, we should continue to find the safest place possible. And Giselle's like, tight. He's upset. He's like, would you have me just locked in my bedroom? What the fuck? I will remain here, and I will coordinate the defense of the. And then we just hear a long, blood-chilling scream on the other side of the wall, and everyone goes meep, and then the gates kind of like shake, ruh-roh. And then Gorse, he tells the knights to form a line to the king, and so they get like into battle mode, and then we like
Blah, 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 transformer sound.
Autobots roll out.
Knight to the body, transform. Battle mode initiated. I'm sorry, just the way you said that, Jeff.
That's cool.
Battle mode.
So all their eyes are they're looking at the gates like, oh shit, something gonna come through here. And then there's a dude from the walls above, and he goes, down there, down. And then I don't know what happened to him, but he just crumpled and then just fell. And then somebody goes like, how the fuck did that happen? And then I guess somebody, an eater, jumped from the outside, jumped up to the wall, killed that dude, and then jumped down, landed gracefully, fucking even turned over like a fucking Simone Biles of eaters, and and
Another reference. We don't care.
What?
It's another reference we don't get, Jeff.
You don't get it's the Olympic gymnast. You guys are killing me. Anyway, and
Keep
this
up
one,
with the Olympics, totally.
there you go. And he has a long spear, and this is definitely an eater. And Giselle realizes this. He goes, "Oh, this ain't a man. This is a breaker of the second law. one of Kalul's 100 words come to settle ancient scores with the first of the Magi. It's just a little unfair that their score somehow had to include me.
He says it exactly like this too. It's
Yeah. And then I like how the eater he raises a hand and he goes, "May God admit us all to heaven." And then Gorse is immediately like, "Kill this motherfucker!" So they just start like shooting off the flat bows. This dude catches one right in the eye, and he just springs forward. And then it's just the carnage. This guy, like, this man took out how many? Like 6, a dozen, something like that. And he took out a bunch of the knights of the body before.
12.
They, yeah, and the last one, like, Gorst had came in, and at some point before, while the eater was out here, like spanking that ass, and he kind of stumbled towards Giselle. The eaters do get damaged. If you can score a hit, it just takes repeated hits, and
their age's different too. So like sometimes they might be damaged by like physical contact. Other times they might not be. They might be completely immune because they don't even care until they get it, and it just kind of depends on.
Right. So he caught like a spear. He caught another flat bow. He was kind of stumbling. He was stumbling towards Giselle. Gorse gets in the way and just like cleaves him in the neck with his long steel. I'm sorry. And his head is hanging on by like a bit of gristle, which is insane. And the fucking near headless corpse is goes after Gorst and like wrestles with him or whatever. And his hand how do I say this? It almost crushes like the armored greaves of Gorst.
Oh, it does crush it. It crushes it enough where he only has one arm like useful.
Yeah, exactly. And then Giselle comes in and he's like, what did he say? He said,
"Here's heaven, you bastard."
And then he finishes off the rest of the head chopping, and then it all just kind of like the body just kind of toppled over, and then they just kind of. And then Giselle kicks the head. And then one guy goes, "They're made of dust." And then Morovia goes, "Okay, we should go inside the palace. There will be more of them." And then somebody goes, "More?" And then, Morovia at this point is not like, he's not waiting. He holds open a door and he goes, "This way." And he's like, "All right." And then they start, running. Hold on, I had to change the pages, sorry. And then they start running. And then they hear some more like cracking, tearing, breaking, whatever, and the gates have been broken through, right? And oh my God, Harrison. Oh, okay. I hate you. All right.
Completely disrupt your entire flow, create more editing problems. I am a god.
Oh God. Okay. So the gates have been broken through, and they turn around and look, and it's a woman just saunters through. We talked about how they like to saunter. Well, they're sauntering this one. And then another one walked right beside her, and I guess they're twinsies, same Z's, except this one is completely spattered head to toe with blood. And they're just having, they're just happy, they're smiling, they're on the glow up, and one of them smacks a Knight Herald across the head, and then he just, goes careening right through the air, and then
And I just want to say, this must be the those twins that Buyers and Your Way were talking about in the first book.
Damn twins!
Those bitches!
Twins. Yep. And then Gorst and some more of the Knights of the Body, they come through after Morovia and Giselle, and then one guy with a flat bow tried to raise it to shoot at them, and he just exploded. And then
which means like these twins have high art, so that's
Oh,
where you're
yeah.
like, oh god. Now,
Oh Lord.
it's like an eater's terrifying enough on their own, but like then they can also have high art sometimes. It's like, how are you supposed to compete with that?
That's why they're like, Jesus, there's more, and they're made of dust. And then somebody is screaming, "Help me, help me!" And then Gorst just goes, "Nah." He closes the door. Fuck this. And then they close it down. They use like they use pieces of wood as well to kind of secure it. And they're kind of they're nervous. It's It's Gorst, Morovia, Giselle, and 5 others, and they're fucking scared. And Giselle whispers, he says the last gate did not hold them. Why should this one? And no one answered. And then we switch our perspectives to boy Glockner, and he tells his mercenaries to keep their wits about him. And he asks, for the door, please. So the fat mercenary starts chopping down the door with the axe. Enough has been chopped down that the dwarf can slither through, and Casca follows right behind. And Casca says that it's clear. Great. And then Glockta tells Artie, he's like, hey, maybe you just stay like in the back. She goes, I was thinking the same thing. And so they go through.
What if she's not actually like scared at this point? What if she's just like hungover? Can now it's been enough time? She's like, oh,
No,
God.
I bet she's scared, but she's probably just exhausted,
I know. I was just being funny, but yeah,
No, yeah,
you're probably right, Jeffrey.
Sorry, and and so and so they go down the corridors, as they say, and then there's a bunch of practicals there, and Vitari's one of them, and we have Goyle's other, the Soljuk men, the the stone shitter with the fucked up face. He's there.
He's
And-
still alive.
They're alive. And Vitari goes, oh, I thought I told you to stay away from here, you crippled bastard. And Glockta goes, but you know what? I just needed to see your smile. And then Casca goes, oh, Shiloh. And then Victoria's just, God damn it, don't you ever die. Oh, I hope I never see you guys again. What the fuck? And then the practicals are kind of like spreading out, right? And then she goes, and then Glockta goes, listen, I think it might be better if we all just kind of, we discuss this like civilized people. And Vitari goes, do you see anybody civilized?
Valid point.
And so a fair point. And then Harrison said valid point. And then Glock he goes, okay, listen, I don't want to risk a bloodbath. So he says, he takes a gamble, right? He goes, too bad about your kids. Oh, that there's no one civilized around them either. And then Vittori goes, they're far away. And Glockta goes, nuh-uh. 2 girls and a boy, right? Oh, flaming red hair just like the mothers. And then he thinks to himself, what gate would they go through? The Gurkish came from the west, so they were stopped at the east gate and taken into custody. Protective custody. These are dangerous times for children. And then Vitari, he could tell that Vitari is starting to get scared. And she goes, when? And then he goes, well, when would a loving mother and her children, usher her children to safety? Why, the very day the Gurkish arrived, of course. Tisk. He's taking a risk here. And he says
I love this. He's like rolling the dice, like literally. It's like,
yep. And he says that practical Severard is the nurse, and he's like, but if I don't come back, and then Vitari goes, well, you wouldn't hurt them. Glock at this point, he's just tired. He goes, what is with everyone today? Lines I won't cross, people I won't hurt, children, hopes, prospects, dreams. I despise those fuckers. but maybe you know me better. Maybe you want to gamble with your children's lives. We could do that, or we can reach an understanding like we did in Dagaska. And then she's not sure yet. She's she's not sure. But then there's other practicals. Man, fuck this. And she tells him, don't move yet. And he goes, well, I don't give a fuck about your kids. It doesn't mean anything to me, and it's not gonna mean anything to Sol. And then Vitari just kind of it cuts his neck, with that chain knife that she has. And he dies, and then she kind of goes, she whips it back to her hand, and then she goes, an understanding, and then he goes, exactly, you stay here, we go past, you didn't see nothing, you can't trust Sol anyway, he left you to the dogs in Dagaska, and all he's done anyway, so time we try something new. And then she's like working, she's thinking about it, and then she goes, all right, fine, down the hall, down the stairs, and there's a door with black iron rivets. And Glock is like, cool, thanks, homie. And then, she goes, if you so much as touch a hair on them, whatever. He goes, yes, I'm terrified. It's, my terror is boundless, all that jazz. Like, he's just so over it. I love it.
Yeah, he's like already like moved on.
Yeah, he's all right, good, yeah. And so then now we're back to the square of marshals, and we're back from Pharaoh's perspective, and everyone is like scared as shit after what just happened with the building collapsing, except for Baez. He's just chilling. He's laughing. He's like, "It works. It's alive." And then Mamoon's like, "No!" And then all the eaters they come rushing forward, and we. Does anybody else want to talk about what happens to these eaters?
I as they all start getting closer, they have all like none of them. What's interesting is I don't think a lot of these eaters like they're some of them are powerful, some have been useful, but like I don't think a lot of them have even like really seen that much fighting, especially not against like this kind of firepower. Not at all.
Right. Yeah.
So they're kind of not really prepared for this. Their plan was just to bum rush Baez, cut him up, eat him, whatever. They're not prepared to deal with all this high art, and some of them may have high art, but not at this level. So, Baez ironically says, "Let the judgment begin," and as he's like, it's basically like a tornado that's coming around him, and it's just ripping everything off. There's eaters that are getting like just are tumbling like skittles, rolling and flailing. It shattered windows and ripped every door around them. Everything around the Lord's rounds was stuck open. Everything was torn apart everywhere. Pharaoh is super duper cold, and like even though she doesn't really like feel the same as everybody else, like it's like a different kind of cold. It's like cold from hell, and most of the eaters presumably get just fucking flung off into high heaven before crashing back down to their death, or just maybe even getting ripped apart. Because as we see here, one of them is reaching for Pharaoh, snarling into the wind, and it's a woman, and Pharaoh's pissed off, so she lashes out, and she brings her sword down, and she brings it down so hard that she never thought she could bring it down like this, and just slices right through the arm, and takes her head from her shoulders.
In one,
and then it gets and it's like she hasn't been able to do that before.
Yeah, not for an eater.
Most of the time,
that's a big deal.
No.
That's a big deal.
No, which means that something's happening with Pharaoh too. And what's interesting about this eater is it's difficult to say. We've talked about how some of these people, like Baez, obviously got like drop kicked by Ptolemy earlier. But like this eater, as soon as it died, it got flung away. So presumably it was holding itself there, not like of keeping itself there for the wind that some of the other eaters couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder. I still wonder. I want to know what like that. Whatever kind of magical resistance thing that is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like an ability. I think it's some kind of trait or something you get over time. Because as we see here, the few who are left out of the initial just outburst of energy, they're all trying to get closer and closer to them. As soon as they get killed, they fly away.
Yeah.
There is one that starts getting close, and
The one with the club.
Yes, it's the one with
Mm-hmm.
the one with the club. And Baez, he's not even used. This is just like him, this outflowing energy from the seed itself. So he just looks over at this guy, raises an eyebrows, and says one word, "Burn," and it just he lights up like a star and is incinerated.
Yep.
The only thing that is left is his bones, and they just get snatched away in the storm. And after that one, after the big boy is gone, it's only Mamoon. And Mamoon is like reaching out, and he's doing pretty well, but he's getting like things are ripping off of him. His greave is tearing off him. His armor's everything is like breaking off of him. He's the only thing that's like left standing, and he's like reaching out towards Baez. And it's interesting because a lot of the eaters went for Pharaoh. It seems like because maybe they saw that was the source of the power, but Mamoon is still going after Baez, and he's like. He's like going full on like Darth Vader. No. And Baez is like, yes. And it seems to like kind of pick up a little bit, and the nails tear from Mamoon's fingers. His outstretched arm bends back, snaps, and is ripped from his shoulder. His flawless skin is peeled from the bone, flopping like a sailcloth. Brown dust flying out of his torn body like a sandstorm over the dunes. And he's dashed away. Crashed to the wall nearby the top one of the buildings, and his blocks were sucked from the edges of the ragged hole he left, tumbling outwards, upwards, and they joined whipping, paper, thrashing lock, spinning planks, flailing corpses.
Mhm.
Everything is just going on hand.
Yeah, it's a giant tornado
And
now, basically.
yeah, now it's starting to do a full on F5 now.
Yeah,
And
F5.
Baez goes, God smiles on the result.
Man, that's a fucking crazy. That was a crazy interaction right there with the seed. Just like it's such a force multiplier, right? And,
If you know how to use it, yes.
yeah, absolutely. And and he like Baez had said before that Canadius had suggested that you use the instead of using raw salt like Glustrad did, he used water, iron like dipped in like salt water, that and stuff like that. So, he really applied Canadius's like writings and stuff to this. So that means Canadius was actually doing research on how to use the seed, which is funny.
And considering he had it the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also means too that Baez is as close as the power of Juvens that you can get, because he actually is using all of the forms of high art except for, or all the forms of magic except for speaking to the spirits. But he did use somebody to speak to the spirits to get the seed, so I got kind of, but
Yeah, kind
you know,
of.
he's using the touching the other side. He's tempering it and using the actual power in high art. He's using Canadius's knowledge to be able to use the other side, and is doing it all with. No, I was everything. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. This is like a big game changer, especially for Baez, because if for the whole like trilogy, we got the impression that Baez was the underdog, right? We had Khalul and a bunch of his eaters. Mamoon is real powerful. He's like Khalul's first apprentice, so maybe he's not as powerful as Khalul or Baez, but he's close, right? And then you had 99 other eaters and all that. It wasn't gonna look good for Baez and them, and for him to just pull out this fucking MacGuffin, this Chekhov's gun or whatever. I mean,
And the fact that they're literally all gone within like 4 pages.
Yo, for real, you're just
It's insane.
dissipated, right? Jeez. Well, then we switch perspectives right after he says, God smiles on the results, and we come to Dogman's perspective, and he's kind of just shaking off the all the effects of the explosion, and he's looking around like the bridges and the gatehouse has disappeared. There's just a lot of debris and destruction strewn about, and then he kind of like looks up ahead and he sees that someone's clambering on top of like all that debris, and it's fucking Logan. And he goes, ah, shit, Logan, he's just running off on his own now to do something like an idiot. And then he sees behind him, following Logan, is fucking Shivers with an axe and shield, and his face is, this man means business. He's gonna do some dirty shit. It's like, oh fuck. So Dogman goes, oh, and then Grim goes, well, let's get after him. Dogman goes to Red Hat, and he's like, all right, let's get some lads together. We're going that way. And then, he has to piss, as always. Then we switch to Giselle's perspective, and Giselle, they're kind of like in the hall. They're just not sure what to do. And then, are they in the?
I think they're in the Hall of Mirrors.
Not yet.
Yes.
Oh, they get to the hall mirrors, right? Yeah, okay, right. I got it. So they Giselle's kind of like he's wondering what are they waiting for. And then he looks up at the ceiling. He's like, did you hear that noise? And then a shape just comes through the ceiling, just bursts right through it, lands on a knight of the body, and just flattens the motherfucker. And it's one of the twins. And then she just smiles at Giselle. It's like, hey, greetings from the Prophet Khalul, onesies. And then, and then there's another knight. He goes, the Union! And he charges. And then she kind of just instantly dodges, like teleports, like Dragon Ball Z-esque. And then
And nothing personnel, kid.
And then just she grabs him and then tosses him through the ceiling. And then she grabs another knight and then smashes his face into a fucking wall. And then the Morovia's like, this way. He grabs Giselle and just, it takes, let's go down. And they go through some doors. Gorst kicks down the doors, and they're running through the chamber of mirrors here. And Giselle at one point goes, "Oh, look at this! One of the mirrors is showing me Clown King running for his life in his own palace."
LOL.
Yeah, and then as they're running, then Giselle kind of like skids to a stop, and Gorst kind of like almost runs into him, behind him, and the other twin is sitting on the floor on the far side of the doorway, the far side doorway, and is just like, "Hey, boys." She just waves, and then Giselle turns around, and then the other twin kind of comes through that door, and she goes, "Have you ever had the feeling that someone else is having all the fun?" And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our chapter. And we leave you on this cliffhanger. We are so sorry. Boys, what do you rate this chapter?
I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 9. I think it's
Now we're getting
I think-
somewhere.
yeah, we're
Not now.
we're full on now. This and the next chapter are like the climax. It's whenever everything's coming together and shit's happening, and I hate to see the Knights of the Body die, but because the good men of the Union, that guy is so sad. He's like, the Union just gets sent into the atmosphere. Oh, it's so sad. But
he got piccoloed.
Yeah. We get all of the some with the Dragon Ball Z reference. we get a whole bias versus the 100 words, and it's not even like a contest basically, which is crazy. It's like you guys said, it completely changes everything. You're like, oh, okay, and it's just it's an intense back and forth chapter. You're really not sure exactly what's gonna happen, and it's it kind of leaves on a cliffhanger. It's well written. We're getting payoffs. We're getting all these the same character stuff, and we're getting even like every person is getting to have like their moment of where they're getting to be. Maybe not everybody, but most everybody's getting a chance to be their best selves in this and the next chapter.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. So yeah, 8 out of 9.
Okay, I like that, Georgie.
Yeah, I reckon I'm gonna give it an 8 as well. It's so good to see. It's so good to see Piaz's fucking full power unleashed, and to see these big bad guys that have been. So we've seen how like fucking powerful they are first in the first book with Pharaoh, and then in this chapter and the previous chapter with Giselle's perspective, like how fucking powerful these guys are, and Piaz just fucking wipes out like 90 of them in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It is quite satisfying. So yeah, I reckon 8 out of 9.
I reckon I'll make it a trifecta.
Woo!
Yeah, I mean, like, we're getting somewhere. I mean, Glokta, he got to the university, so we'll see what happens there in the next chapter. But yeah, the full effects of what's going on with the Seed and Baez. I mean, you've seen Baez do some crazy shit. He exploded some people, he exploded some trees. He's burned people, all that stuff. But this is just, this is like a small nuclear bomb that's going off right here. And you see Pharaoh kind of like get her glow up too. And we didn't really get much because I know when she was holding the seed, that arm was starting to feel differently, she even said. And yeah, we got Dogman. I gotta be babysitter again. Oh, Giselle, seeing his knights in the army get cleaved through like Swiss cheese, boy. Yeah, no, it's a great chapter, and I just like from here on out, I think we're gonna get a lot of
high scores.
High scores, like resolutions, climaxes, just things are all coming to a head in the next few chapters. So that was awesome. Let's move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Harrison?
Yeah, we've been doing these groups of individuals because as we're getting into this book, we've already covered a lot of them, and the few that are left, we're trying to save for their best moments or their last moments. So this time we wanted to talk about the Eaters as a whole. We've seen them pop up a few times. We've talked about on and off how powerful they are, or in this chapter how not very powerful they are. But as for the human side, the character side for them, most of them are like really I guess, obnoxious, full of personality. A lot of them are really weird. A lot of them are dealing with some stuff. But honestly, I mean, even Mamoon, who's been around the longest and is definitively, I think, by the series standards, is the most powerful eater. He is definitely like he's still weird, and it's at first you're like, oh, this is kind of strange, but I mean, it makes total sense. Most of the 100 words were forced to become eaters, and they had to do some terrible things in order to get it, and then they never got their trauma resolved, and they were told just to listen to the prophet, go kill Baez, eat. So of course they're gonna be fucked up. They don't have anything to do.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are like, how? But Mamu must be like 1,000 years old, right?
He's pretty old.
So
I mean,
they're all like between that range, between like 1,000 and like 200 years old, let's say.
Or maybe even just maybe even just a few years.
They're old, that's for sure.
So yeah, I think that does fucking drive you crazy, especially being forced to eat people that you know most likely, like Shickle said. Yeah.
What?
You can't help but feel bad for them, in a way.
I mean, kind of hard to feel bad for cannibals, but okay.
No, I mean, Georgia's got a point because I mean, like Shickle said, she was forced to eat her parents. Of course, she's gonna be fucked up.
Yeah, you're right.
But
and even Mamoon just seems sad.
Yeah,
he seems like he doesn't really want to be there. He's just like, Oh,
yeah,
well.
He seems like he is fulfilling his duty because that's all he has left.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what happens. Like Joe does a very good job of showing how what time does to people, and I think it's most exemplified by the people who obviously live forever, like the eaters and the magi. So you've got multiple magi who are. They're either weird or kooky or have completely lost it, and only a few have actually kept it together. We don't even know what Kalu's state of being is. He could be fucking absolutely nuts.
You're right,
and that's why they have so many issues in the near future. But in the eaters, though, I mean, like they don't even have that original purpose. They don't even like. It's essentially the same as I can't think of an analogy. But the Magi over time learned. They had a master. They got to learn on their own. They got to live life. They got to be human beings. Most of the eaters were forced to be eaters and had to do terrible things, and then got to be told, "Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You're all powerful. Don't worry about it. But just make sure that you're there to kill Baez when the time comes." Like they lost all individuality and personality in life, so of course they're going to be terrible.
Rip the eaters.
Hashtag justice for the eaters.
Hashtag
Mamoon did nothing wrong.
Yeah, and then when you start to be concerned about like, oh, maybe Kalu is the good guy, then you realize, oh, it's right. Yeah, he made the eaters to stop Baez because he thinks Baez is evil, but he also made the eaters.
Right. Pray for the 100 words, y'all. Oh Lord.
Well, at least they all believe they're going to heaven, so.
That's a strong belief in your methodology. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, it's all you have left.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Jeff's like, well, that was sad enough, guys. Jesus.
Who gives a fuck? Anyway, thank you for covering the 100 words there. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover Reckonings.
And make sure you follow us on all the social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Reddit, we're on Twitter, and we have a website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
God smiles on results.